Alrighty, welcome to Catsassin. So I decided to finally give my Cat Hitman prototype a go. The main goal of it is basically you have awful owners and you want to get rid of them, and the best way you know how as a cat is to kill them. And the whole hope is that they get replaced by nicer people. Now you could just say pick up the knife and then stab them, or maybe cut the kitty's heels and push them down the stairs. But that would be a very obvious kill and probably get you in a lot of trouble. So, the idea is, how would you subtly go about killing people or make unique ways for them to die? So on day one, I made this awful character controller and this awful camera controller, as well as some very basic innocent ways of killing people. You know, cats like to knock stuff off things, so there's that speaker. And maybe you've got the zoomies, so I added a little dash button, which lets you knock things off and maybe accidentally electrocute people in the bath. And if you got your timing and your aim right, you could push this person down the stairs. So on day two, I invented electricity and the question mark. So walking up to this little switch lets you actually toggle the lamp on and off. Now, how that works is not just a simple toggling of that object directly. It's actually interrupting the flow of electricity, which is coming from the wall through the insulated wire to the insulated switch to the insulated wire to the lamp. And now if I walk up the switch, I can turn it on and off by making the switch non-conductive anymore. However, I can also chew the cable. Doing so on a live wire is not advised, so you can switch the lamp off and then chew the hole and then switch it back on, and now we have sparks. Now sure, this was inspired by day one's electrocution in the bath, but that was done fakely. I wanted this to be real so that I could actually do a little bit more of a Rube Goldberg assassination attempt. And what I had in mind comes in day three. Day three, I decided to make conductive liquids. So if you knock some wine over and it actually hits the power point, it's going to electrocute our little duty. And he's dead. And he doesn't like it very much, no sorry. So the whole idea is that you could spill liquids next to each other, and any touching conductors actually will, spread the electricity. So now if I walk over this as the kitty cat, I get the electrocution thing above my head. Now that just cost me 1 life, which is fine, because I have 8 more. So now I can actually just toggle the lamp power off, and now the puddle will be safe to walk in. So now I'm going to go a little bit into how I actually did the puddles, not because it's world-breakingly new, but just because I feel like sharing. When I first wanted to make a puddle, my first thoughts were, how do puddles work? Well, you get an impact point, and then when that happens, you get little splashes of liquid all around. So naturally, I thought spawn a particle system, have some physical particles spawn. When they spawn, they'll bounce, and whatever they hit, they'll come back. So it will end up being, like liquid-ish, I guess. And then as that's happening, you'd have a ever-increasing radius from the inside going outwards until you find, and generating a mesh with that, until you hit the outmost point, and then you've got a puddle finished. So basically, there can be a whole bunch of, this is the time slice. So you'll see it's creating new ones, and the puddle would be coming out, slowly growing until it hits the outmost one. Now, if we want to see that in action, you just hold down the left button. So as you can see, this is the Delaunay triangle method, because that's the first thing that came to mind. If I have a bunch of just random points, how do I actually make a mesh out of this? Well, it's Delaunay. It gives you a perfectly usable mesh, and it's a nice convex hull collision. However, as you can see, it just doesn't care about obstacles whatsoever. It just penetrates right through them because it's a GIF wrapping algorithm. So then I thought, well, why don't I make a concave hull version? And I found a concave hull white paper from 2011. It's a Swedish one, of course it is. That looked kind of tricksy. I did some of it, it didn't work so well. But then I found alpha shapes. So let me set this to be kind of loosey-goosey. So the same kind of thing, spawn the particles, they bounce, they hit the edges. And then when this grows out, what happens is it actually creates a concave shape. Now, it's following the same principles as before, and you'll see that this only mildly penetrates this, but if we do it again, yeah, this one's going to be a bad one because there's only so much that this can actually do with, you know. And you may notice that the triangles are flickering. So some of that is down to me just being the world's best coder. The other problem is that for a bunch of points, there isn't a single correct concave hull. So as the points are busy changing, there's different versions of this being returned, and it's busy flickering between solutions. So it kind of finds a stable-ish one, but it looked kind of but anyway, I decided to do it with a spline anyway, just to see what they would look like. And it kind of helps because it makes things bend around. And yeah, but it still penetrates, so that really doesn't help. If you're wondering about the slider, this is just how tightly you want to make it. So if you want to make it completely loose up here, then it's going to be basically a convex hull-ish. But if you take it down here, then it's going to be so tight that it's just going to just make little segments. So with that not working, I thought, well, what I want to do is have a catmull ROM. So if I spawn this, come on. Okay, so then what happens with this one is that it doesn't just gather all the points. It's going to divide the radius into 36 buckets of 10 degrees. And anything that falls in a bucket simply increases the distance for that bucket. Now, the whole reason I did this is because otherwise there's no easy way to know how to convert the points that you end up with into a spline. Because a spline is just going to be going between a whole bunch of points on the outside. But if you end up with something like this, what points are on the outside, you have no idea, and you'd have to first figure that out. And so this, you just split it up into 36 buckets, and then whatever you find, you just draw a nice spline around. But as you can see, it creates really funky looking shapes, and it's just going to keep doing that. Yeah. So then I figured, well, you know, what if I stop trying to be smart and stop trying to learn things, and I just like put on my Dirkat? What would I do? In Dirkat, we just do this. 36 raycasts out from the splash radius. And then when you hold the button down, it simply draws a spline. Because it knows easily the order of what to draw things. It's a triangle fan drawing from the middle like that. So it's 36 triangles. And the benefit of this is collision detection. So in Unity, this would give you a convex hull, so you'd know that if you were colliding with it. However, in the video you saw that the cat was busy standing here and not getting electrocuted. So what I'm doing is I'm using the convex hull as a first detection method. So if something enters the convex hull, what I then do is do a line or point to triangle intersection. So I just have to check one thing against 36 triangles to know whether they're actually touching the real triangle mesh or not. The other thing about this is that it's, of course, predictable. Every single time you do it, it's going to give you more or less the same result. The only reason why it changes is because I figured that having a completely smooth outline looked really rubbish, so I just added a little bit of noise to the outside. So that's the only thing that changes between this. But it gives you really nice flowing around stuff. Only thing is, the earlier methods that I was trying would work very well for, say, running downstairs or liquid spilling on a table and falling off the edge. And this one isn't. However, it's good to have something working you can debug with than some pie-in-the-sky thing that you never get finished. So for now, these puddles will just have to do pig. Anyway, I hope you got something from this video. Stay safe. Bye.